In the year 2157, Earth has transformed. Humanity has moved beyond wars and famine, nature has rejuvenated, and deadly diseases are a thing of the past. Exploration of unknown planets is now in the hands of young, brave students, searching for extraterrestrial life in deep space. One such student is Max, a young man full of courage and hope, who embarks on another mission. However, disaster strikes when his spacecraft is hit by an asteroid, forcing him to make an emergency landing on an unfamiliar planet. As soon as he steps outside, his shuttle explodes, cutting off all communication. Despite this, Max doesn't lose hope. He decides to explore the planet, which, by all indications, seems to resemble Earth. He believes that he might find help or at least a way to send a signal for rescue. While exploring, Max is captured by an indigenous inhabitant named Zeth. To understand their language, Max uses a translator capsule inserted into his ear. Zeth hands him over to the authorities, who place a special helmet on Max, projecting his thoughts and memories onto a screen during an intense interrogation. Meanwhile, Corporal Gas, a soldier assigned to transport Max to the capital, takes charge. During the journey, Max picks up on a strange signal, and the people around him begin chanting the anthem of the guard. As they pass a mysterious tower, it suddenly collapses after an explosion, trapping Gas inside the vehicle. Max pulls him out, saving his life, only to learn that the attack was carried out by rebels, the main enemies of the state's supreme authority. Together, Max and Gas continue to the capital on foot. At the same time, the Wanderer, the head of the Department of Special Research, orders his subordinate, Fank, to bring Max to him. As Fank transports Max, the Republic's prosecutor becomes suspicious of the Wanderer's interest in the mysterious, savage Max, and begins gathering all available information. Soon, the planet's defense towers are activated, and everyone prepares in their own way. While transporting Max, Fank suffers a seizure. Taking advantage of the situation, Max escapes and wanders through the city, bewildered by the strange, unfamiliar lifestyle. Elsewhere, the planet's rulers, known as the Unknown Fathers, convene for a meeting to discuss the recent developments. After a long journey, Max stumbles into a local cafe, where he defends a waitress named Rada from a rude patron. Grateful, Rada introduces herself as the sister of Corporal Gas and offers to take Max home. On the way, Max gets into a fight with a street gang and defeats them, further impressing Rada. She invites him to stay at her home. Later that night, Gas returns home, and Max starts asking questions about their world. Through their conversations, Max realizes that both Rada and Gas have been brainwashed by state propaganda. Rada, for example, believes their planet is hollow, and that there is no such thing as the sky or space. As Gas explains the political structure of their world, known as Sarek, Max learns about the Unknown Fathers, who are hailed as saviors for having preserved the homeland from various threats. However, beneath this surface of order and control lies a deeply flawed system, one that Max will soon find himself entangled in as he uncovers more secrets about this strange world. The defense towers serve as the primary protection for Sarek, safeguarding it from external attacks. No one knows the true identities of the Unknown Fathers because they aren't considered rulers but public servants. At Max's request, Corporal Gas recommends him for the guard. Max demonstrates an impressive level of training, which surprises Gas. However, the two frequently argue about politics. One day, Gas admits that neighboring states despise Sarek because they were once part of the same country, united by a common history. Over time, romantic feelings develop between Max and Rada. They often take walks together, and Max shares stories about his home planet, Earth, expressing sadness that his parents likely believe he is dead. Soon, Max is given the task of capturing rebels, who are identified by seizures that resemble epileptic fits. During one mission, a rebel attacks the captain, and Max saves his life. Afterward, the captain expresses regret for capturing the rebels, acknowledging that they are human beings too. Max starts attending interrogations, only to discover that the rebels are not the terrorists they are made out to be by the Unknown Fathers. They are simply people with different ideals and beliefs. Max grows increasingly uncomfortable with the cruelty of these interrogations and cannot accept the idea that someone is paying the rebels to hate the government. Meanwhile, Fenk reports to the Wanderer that he has located the savage, Max. Gas and Max are then summoned by the captain of the guard, who orders Max to execute the captured rebels. Max leads the prisoners to the forest for their execution, but he returns alone to the captain, dropping his gear and weapons. He informs the officer that he has released the rebels and walks away. Max begins to speak openly about the real and just order of the world as it exists on Earth. In response, the captain shoots Max. Gas is then ordered to write a report on the transfer. During this time, the Unknown Fathers are planning an attack on neighboring states. The prosecutor pushes for starting a war, and the Chief Father instructs them to create a false pretext, such as staging an attack on one of the towers. Meanwhile, Max's body is recovered by the rebels. Among them is a doctor, who is astonished to find that Max is still alive, despite his grave injuries. The doctor reveals a shocking truth: the Unknown Fathers are a group of conspirators who seized power and eliminated dissenters to distract the population from poverty and corruption. The defense towers are actually transmitters that emit special radiation, hypnotizing the impoverished citizens. Although most people don't notice it, the rebels, being part of a minority, experience unbearable pain. The transmitters are activated twice daily, causing madness and death among those affected. Max is recognized by the rebels as one of their own and is taken in for an operation to sabotage one of the towers. The mission, organized by a prosecutor through a traitor, leads Max and the rebels into a fierce battle. Amid the gunfire, Max reaches the transmitter and successfully detonates it, but the rebel squad is killed in the process. Max seeks refuge in Radha's apartment, where he tells her everything he's learned about the towers. Gas, however, refuses to believe the truth and suggests that Max should return to Earth and take Radha with him. But before they can act, guards storm the apartment, arresting both Max and Gas. Max is imprisoned, and among the inmates, he is soon recognized by the indigenous inhabitants of the planet. Max encounters Zay, who is also a rebel. Max tells Zay about the destruction of the tower and the tragic loss of the rebel squad. Meanwhile, the Wanderer demands the prosecutor hand Max over to him. The prosecutor, however, requests something in return: a halt to the development of more precise transmitters. He fears that his secret will be exposed, as his reaction to the radiation is similar to that of the rebels, revealing that he is also a dissenter. Later, Max and other death row inmates are sent to clear the southern borders of the remaining war robots. During this time, the prosecutor learns that Max is immune to the radiation from the towers. He decides to break his agreement with the Wanderer and orders that Max be brought to him. Max tries to explain to the rebels that instead of destroying the towers one by one, they should strike at the center where the signal originates. Zay becomes furious and explains that the towers are not just identifying dissenters, they are continuously active, not just twice a day. The radiation emitted from the towers robs people of their ability to think critically, making them believe everything told to them by newspapers, radio, teachers, and preachers. The rebels are the only ones who understand the truth because, while the radiation doesn't hypnotize them, it causes them unbearable pain. Zay goes on to reveal that there are mutants in the south who are also unaffected by the radiation. However, the mutants do not interact with humans. Just then, they hear the roar of an engine, and Zay identifies it as a self-propelled tank trying to kill them. Max sprints to the tank, climbs inside, and disables the automatic control system. He then informs his comrades that he is heading south to find allies and destroy the towers at their source. At the border, the military tries to stop the tank. Among them, Max spots Gas. Max takes Gas captive and, as they break through the barricades, he explains the true situation on the planet. Gas becomes convinced when, at the designated time, he is outside the range of the towers and doesn't feel the radiation. Realizing he's been a puppet of the government all along, Gas becomes enraged. However, Max calms him down, reminding him that there are 40 million people just like him, and that this rebellion is for them. During a stop, they encounter the mutants, who live in the nearby steppes. Despite their appearance, the mutants behave peacefully and offer food to Max and Gas. As they travel deeper into the area, they notice the poverty and suffering of the population. The locals tell them that it's dangerous to live here after the last war, but the mutants have no other place to go. Max proposes to the leader of the mutants, the Duke, that they join the rebellion against the unknown fathers. However, the mutants are physically and morally too weak to contribute to the uprising. Instead, the Duke suggests that Max and Gas seek help from the island empire. To reach the empire, however, they must pass through contaminated lands. As a parting gift, the Duke provides them with an old bomber, and the two take to the skies. During their flight, the bomber becomes exposed to the radiation from the towers. The exposure causes Gas to become fanatically devoted to Max, to the point of obstructing him from piloting the aircraft. Max struggles to maintain control of the bomber as the situation becomes more dangerous. The bomber collides with a tower, and Gas suddenly snaps out of his fanatic state, having no recollection of what he had just done. However, their aircraft is soon shot down by the automated anti-aircraft defense system left over from the previous war. The downed bomber crashes into the sea, but Max and Gas manage to escape and reach the shore. On the beach, they discover an abandoned submarine, and Max decides to investigate inside. Meanwhile, back in the city, the prosecutor orders Rada to be captured, and his men grab her off the street. He pretends to be Max's friend, showing her footage of his escape, but Rada doesn't believe him and refuses to cooperate. Furious, the prosecutor throws her into prison. While waiting for Max, Gas becomes impatient and swims to the submarine. Inside, they uncover evidence of horrific experiments conducted on prisoners. They reach the control room and view recordings of mass executions of Gas's fellow countrymen by representatives of the island empire, the very people they were hoping to ally with. Horrified, Gas realizes that forming an alliance with the Empire is no longer an option. The two return to shore, where they are met by a coastal patrol. War has broken out with a neighboring state, and like most prisoners, they are to be sent to the front lines. At the same time, the Wanderer, determined to bring Max into his department, orchestrates Rada's escape. He laments how the war has disrupted his plans and orders Fank to find Max, admitting his fear of him. Max and Gas are sent to the front, where they reunite with Zeph. Their commander is revealed to be the same guard captain who had earlier tried to force Max to execute the rebels. When Fank arrives to retrieve Max, the captain refuses to hand him over. Max and his friends are sent into battle in old tanks. When Fank finally locates Max, Max refuses to abandon his friends. He stuns Fank and throws him into their tank. As the battle begins, Max directs the tank away from the battlefield. Gas, under the influence of radiation, blindly obeys Max and pulls their unconscious friends out of the tank, which the captain witnesses. When the captain prepares to execute Max for desertion, Gas shields Max with his body, but a wounded Max musters his last strength and kills the captain. Max mourns Gas's sacrifice, but when Fank regains consciousness and mentions Rada's name, Max agrees to cooperate with the Wanderer. After the battle, Max buries Gas, listening to Fank's offer. He is promised an apartment at the Institute, a car, and freedom of movement, but he will only be allowed to see Rada once he proves his loyalty to the state. Meanwhile, the prosecutor meets with Max under false pretenses at the Wanderer's department. He proposes a plan: Max should overthrow the unknown fathers. The prosecutor provides the coordinates of the central control center for the tower system. Once Max infiltrates the center, he must activate a special radiation wave designed to cause widespread depression, subduing the entire population and military. Then, Max must eliminate the unknown fathers. Afterward, the prosecutor promises, Max will become the new ruler of the state, and Rada, who is in the Wanderer's hands, will be freed. The prosecutor will serve as Max's advisor. Max takes Zeph with him on the mission. Upon arriving at the center, Max leaves instructions with his associates to detonate a bomb in the trunk of their vehicle if he does not return. He easily gains access to the building's interior but is stopped by guards just before reaching the elevator. Max incapacitates the guards, but they regain consciousness and chase him. He makes it to the control center and activates the depression mode, spreading it across the entire country. As the Wanderer watches from afar, people collapse to the ground, overwhelmed by the effects of the depression mode. Realizing what is happening, he rushes toward the control center. Meanwhile, Max returns to retrieve the bomb he had planted earlier. He places it inside the building and triggers it, leaving the area just before the explosion hits. A powerful blast resonates, destroying the main transmitter. On the streets, people start to regain their senses and clarity as the radiation's grip on their minds is broken. Max races through the chaos, searching for Rada. He finally locates her inside a cryo chamber and carries her outside, but just as he tries to escape, the Wanderer blocks his path. In a shocking revelation, the Wanderer confesses that he is, in fact, an agent of galactic security from Earth. He had arrived on the planet 20 years ago to assist in its development, but things had spiraled out of control. Now, chaos reigns in the streets, with a power struggle erupting as people battle for control. Many lives are being lost in the turmoil. In a fit of rage, the Wanderer attacks a foolish student who had destroyed the culmination of his hard work. As the state faces an economic collapse, famine, and the threat of invasion from neighboring countries, the Wanderer is consumed by frustration. Max stands his ground, accusing the Wanderer of enabling the construction of the towers and the enslavement of the local population. In response, the Wanderer coldly reminds Max of the so-called laws of history, claiming that all rational beings must endure wars and enslavement as part of their evolution. According to him, this planet is no exception. At that moment, Max declares that this is now his home, and as long as he is alive, he will fight against inflation, hunger, and war. He swears that he will not allow the creation of another society built on the foundation of slavery. Rada, now fully conscious, joins Max, standing beside him in defiance. As the two face the Wanderer together, the future of the planet hangs in the balance, with Max determined to ensure that freedom, justice, and hope will prevail.